Hello and welcome to yet another episode of NAPTIP On The Move. My name is Angela Agbegi. It's that time of the year when the world unites for the international campaign tagged 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. Our package today will enlighten you on this global awareness campaign and the role of NAPTIP.
A severe violation of several human rights with impacts ranging from physical harm, long-term emotional distress, and even fatalities. Sexual and gender-based violence is a global problem.
Sex and gender-based violence is that crime that is committed against a person based on the person's sex or gender. For example, rape, incest, sodomy, even physical violence against a person, because sometimes people see people that are small in stature and are physically violent against them. Maybe because they are females, or maybe because they are males too. So those are some of the examples of crimes that are, committed against a person because of the person's sex or gender.
To prevent this global concern, every year the world marks 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
This 16 days of activism was initiated in the year 1991, and the 16 days of activism starts on the 25th of November and ends on the 10th of December every year. 25th November is internationally known as the day for the elimination of violence against women and girls. And the 10th of December is also known as the Human Rights Day. So you can see it's very significant because the world acknowledges the importance of women in the society.
16 Days Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an international campaign geared towards ensuring that the whole populace and community are sensitized about gender-based violence. This sensitization has to do in markets, road transport workers, in schools, churches, mosques, and as many public spaces as we can find ourselves in.
Each year addresses a specific issue based on the theme.
This year's theme for the 16 Days of Activism Against Sexual and Gender-Based Violence is titled Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. In a nutshell, it is talking about empowerment, and both our women and our girl children are to be empowered to make them to be able to stand against violence, because it is mostly when people are financially vulnerable that they fall victim to sexual and gender-based violence. So this year's theme is encouraging all of us to make sure that we fight sexual and gender-based violence by empowering our women and our girl children. We can do that by sending them to school, making sure that they get educated. We can also do that by making sure that they learn an art or craft that will help them to fend for themselves when they grow up, and for the women to also help out and support their husbands in taking care of the home, and also make them financially independent. Because we found out that most of the women that suffer sexual and gender-based violence are women of low economic power and women that have very little or no education. It is true that people that are financially capable and those that are well educated also suffer it. But the data has shown us that those that are well educated and those that are financially empowered suffer less of sexual and gender-based violence. So this year's theme is emphasizing that the society should support women and girls to make sure that they are financially empowered, educationally empowered, and socially empowered.
To curb incidences of sexual and gender-based violence, NAPTIP implements the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 in the Federal Capital Territory.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 is a revolutionary document, is a revolutionary law that changed the dynamics of what we use to fight sexual and gender-based violence. The document has so revolutionized our fight that in so many crimes now, the crimes were treated in a holistic way. For example, the crime of rape. Formerly, all we know about rape is female to male. But Section 1 of the Act, of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, made us to understand that you can commit rape by just using any, whether organ of your body or an object. So that has added more power to the law, because it means that even a female can also rape a fellow female by using an object. It also means that a male can also sodomize a fellow male. So in that way, all the branches or all the spheres of rape are captured under the act. In that act, a female genital mutilation was also criminalized. In the law, because of our traditional practices, some people see that as part of culture, but the act has criminalized it to tell us that we should not commit such violence against women and girls. And also, the act has also criminalized so many spheres of violence against women, especially Section 12 of the Act that prohibits forced financial dependence or economic abuse of women. In that act, formerly people used to think that maybe telling a woman to stay home, don't go to work, and then you don't meet her needs is acceptable, so long as you're the husband or the guardian. But the act made us to understand that such crimes, such actions are crimes against women and girls, and that it is now criminalized under this act. So these are some of the things that our new law has done to make sure that women and girls are protected. And even the protection also goes to men and boys too, because it doesn't say that a boy cannot be raped or a boy cannot be sodomized. So you see that the new law, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, is a revolutionary act, and it is one that is guaranteed to protect the rights of everybody in our country, Nigeria.
The agency employs its five-pronged approach to address incidences of sexual and gender-based violence.
NAPTIP recognizes the fact that sex and gender-based violence is a violation against women. And NAPTIP also realizes that prevention is the antidote for every ill in the society. We engage in advocacy visits. We engage in sensitization, especially at the grassroots. We go to the 6 area councils of the FCT, down to the grassroots, to teach people and to sensitize people against sexual and gender-based violence. We also offer psychosocial support to sexual and gender-based violence victims and survivors. We offer them counseling. We offer them medical services. For those that have medical issues, we take them to hospitals. We make sure that both mentally and physically that they are okay. We also offer educational services and the opportunity to learn arts and crafts. The ones that want to go to school, we send them to school. We have people that the agency have trained to the tertiary level. And in fact, as at present, we have 5 victims that are staff officers of the agency. Some So we also offer prosecutorial services to make sure that those that commit these crimes against victims of sexual and gender-based violence don't go free, that they are accountable to the law. So we also prosecute and have those that are guilty convicted. Currently, we have secured a conviction of life imprisonment for somebody that sodomized a child. So that is to show you how serious the agency takes its duties. We also make sure that the world knows about sex and gender-based violence by collaborating with other agencies, both nationally and internationally, because that is the way that we bring the plight of our victims and survivors to the fore. So some of these agencies and ministries collaborate with us and assist in whatever way they can to make sure that our victims and survivors are reintegrated and rehabilitated. You know, when people hear about sexual and gender-based violence, they don't really understand how traumatic such experiences are. So the law also visits such suspects with very strong convictions, very long-term convictions, to act as deterrents to people who might think that they can commit such heinous crimes and get away with it.
On a daily basis, NAPTIP receives reports of sexual and gender-based violence.
A lot of violence is going on against women and girls, which we need to protect them and provide them with access to justice. We had a case where in Apo, where a 13-year-old was being raped by her guardian. She stays with her mom's sister, that's like her uncle, and the other children are in the house. She's 13, but there are other children in the house, 4 years and 2 years old. And the guardian on a daily basis abuses this 13-year-old sexually. So eventually she was able to open up to her school counselor, who now had to call NAPTIP, and we had to go and rescue her. And when she explained to us, her guardian actually has a girlfriend who also comes to the house. So the guardian takes it in turns. Any day the girlfriend is not in the house, then he molests the 13-year-old. So the case is currently going on, and the perpetrator is still in NAPTIP custody.
There was a case in our agency where a woman locked the doors, locked the windows, switched off the lights, and stripped her house help naked, and used razor blade to draw marks all over her back. While the girl was screaming, neighbors could not hear because she had closed the doors and the windows. Much later, about 2 days after this crime was committed, the neighbor saw this girl outside fetching water with so much pain and difficulty. So the neighbor called the little girl and said, "What is your problem? Why can't you bend and carry your bucket?" Tears were streaming down this little girl's face, and she pointed to her back. It was when the neighbor opened her back and saw the wound on her back that she became very angry and went and accosted the woman. And that's how the case came to our agency.
Culture of silence is a major barrier in implementing the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, especially SGBV cases.
In the implementation of the Act, we face a lot of challenges. And those challenges basically come from our culture and our traditional practices, especially the culture of silence, where people suffer domestic violence, sexual violence, and they are made to keep quiet. These are some of the things that fight against, making sure that sexual and gender-based violence is eliminated in the society. Because if it's not brought out to the open that this is a crime that has been committed, it's practically impossible to prosecute such an act or to make sure that it doesn't occur again. So culture of silence is something that is fighting against the sexual and gender-based violence implementation in the country, and particularly in Federal Capital Territory. again, we should note that some of our traditions and traditional practices and culture are also things that, doesn't really give power to the woman. Under our cultural practices, a woman is subjugated to a position of, an underling, sort of, because the woman will, even when something is done to the woman, is expected that she should keep quiet culturally, because if you voice out, it will be as if this woman is projecting the family in a negative way. So you see some women, their husbands will beat them, their husbands will throw their luggage out and destroy their certificates, burn it, and they will never say. And even when they voice out such things, that this is what my husband has done, you see people in the society that will just take it as, part of the burdens that a woman should carry. And this ought not to be. So it is now that we are trying so hard to sensitize people that this kind of practices against women is unacceptable. A woman should be valued. A woman should be treasured. Even if you have a disagreement, or you have disagreement with your wife or your husband, you do not need to descend to violence. So these are some of the things that is not acceptable and that the agency is fighting against.
For the 2023 16 Days of Activism, NAPTIP has embarked on various events to ensure an effective campaign.
NAPTIP has a lineup of activities for 16 Days of Activism. We inaugurated a vanguard in Government Girls Secondary School on the first day of the 16 days, 25th of November. We have had a high-level advocacy workshop on strategies for gender-based violence and the role of stakeholders in implementing the VAP Acts in the FCT. This advocacy workshop brought together traditional rulers from the 6 area councils, religious leaders from the 6 area councils, teachers and counselors from UBEB, HIMAT members, which are ministries, departments, and agencies that implement the VAP Act, and then civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations who work as service providers to victims of sexual and gender-based violence. NAPTIP is also going to have a survivor co-mentoring program where we mentor survivors on economic independence. And then we're also going to have a mental health workshop for frontline officers of NAPTIP, because in as much as we're doing an enlightenment for victims and for the public, we need our officers to be emotionally and psychologically strong to go through with the job. And then we're also going to have a survivors fair whereby survivors bring their crafts in terms of what they've learned through skill acquisition, tailoring, bead making, hat making, soap making, peanut making. So they are going to bring their crafts. We'll have a fair and they bring their craft to showcase to the public on what they have done with these skills that they have acquired.
Finally, here is a word for everyone.
During these 16 days of activism and beyond, we encourage everyone to report any suspected case of sexual and gender-based violence to our short code, our hotlines, our iReporter app, or our social media platforms.
Indeed, reporting cases of sexual and gender-based violence will not only ensure that perpetrators are brought to book, but will as well serve as a deterrent. NAPTIP is on the move to ensure a violence-free nation. NAPTIP On The Move is sponsored by Expertise France, funded by the European Union.
Break the culture of silence and report that case today. We're moving on now and we'll bring you our event segment. Keep watching. The Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, was a special guest at the Send Them Home exhibition on human trafficking in Soho, London. Founded by Angus Thomas, the Send Them Home campaign is an initiative that helps rescue and repatriate African women trafficked to the United Arab Emirates for sexual exploitation. Speaking at the exhibition, Professor Waziri Azi commended Angus Thomas and his team.
I met Angus a few hours ago today for the first time, but I met him virtually in May 2022, about 8 months after I was appointed Director General of NAPTIP. He reached out to me just a few days after we secured the conviction of a trafficker who was responsible for trafficking 2 young Nigerian girls to Dubai. And with the information and intel that Angus was able to share with us, we were able to secure that conviction. She was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment without the option of fine, and she was also made to pay compensation to her 2 victims. And this act epitomizes what trans-border cooperation and collaboration is all about.
She further highlighted the need for concerted efforts to fight human trafficking.
We need to begin to see the issue of human trafficking as our collective problem, and that is the only way we can collectively make traction. And that also means that we must continue to support ourselves in terms of trans-border cooperation, collaboration, communication, and resource mobilization.
The Send Them Home campaign hopes to raise global awareness, mobilize international action, and make concrete progress in stamping out human trafficking for good. The Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, recently played host to the Program Director of the Network of University Legal Aid Institutions in Nigeria, Nulai Odinakaonye Odilagi, and her team, who said the visit is aimed at renewing partnership with NAPTIP in its preventive initiatives within educational institutions. Responding to the Nulai team, Professor Waziri Azi informed the team of NAPTIP's willingness to partner by leveraging on NAPTIP's anti-human trafficking and violence against persons vanguards, which has been established in 88 secondary schools by the agency, as well as the iReporter reporting app. Nulai is an organization with a membership of law clinics and legal institutions across Nigerian universities and law schools, committed to advancing legal education and access to justice. The management of NAPTIP also received a team from the Innovation for Poverty Action, led by Fumilayo Ayeni, the country director. Speaking on the purpose of the visit, the country director said the goal of Innovation for Poverty Action is to reduce poverty in Nigeria, stating that their organization works on 3 pillars, including creating stronger evidence, sharing such evidence with relevant bodies, and equipping decision makers to use the evidence shared. She said her organization aims to support NAPTIP in achieving its policy objectives, the 2022 National Action Plan, and strengthen research policies. Receiving the team, the Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, enlightened them on the NAPTIP mandate, strategies employed in the fight against human trafficking, and violence against persons in the FCT, and achievements so far. She also expressed the agency's willingness to collaborate with the Innovation for Poverty Action. NAPTIP partners with all stakeholders in ensuring a human trafficking and violence-free nation. A federal high court in Benin, Edo State, presided over by Honorable Justice Geraldine Imadebelo, has sentenced a 25-year-old man, Alfred Osadolo, to 7 years imprisonment and a fine of 1 million naira for the procurement and sexual exploitation of a 10-year-old girl, an offense contrary to Section 26, Subsection 1 of the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act 2015. Up next is the Victim Story segment.
When I went to school, my teacher, he raped me inside the toilet. The second day is what he did to me. The third day, I now tell my mother. My mother now went to meet them in the school. He said that he did not do me anything. I say he do me something. When my mother now go back, then they now come and they went to the police station. They now tell them, they find him, they did not see him. Then one day I was washing my clothes. Uncle now came with two women, with their two boys. They now come and carry me. They now carry me and come to head office and I tell them what brought me there. And they now carry me and come to the shelter. NAPTIP, thank you for helping me.
For more inquiries and support, or to report cases of suspected human trafficking, violence against persons and child abuse, please call NAPTIP hotline 0703 0000203 or the short code 627. Take advantage of the NAPTIP iReporter app and report incidences with ease. Email us info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria or watch our videos on YouTube.
Hope you were enlightened. Thank you for watching NAPTIP On The Move. Till I come your way next week, report all cases of violence against persons, child abuse, and human trafficking. I'm Angela Agbegi. Bye for now.